Okay.
The mustache,
Okay.
I feel.
We left off on the mustache. That's right. So you're meeting a lot of mustached dads in the water. Is that the point down here in Oceanside? That's your biggest takeaway. You're like, yeah, I'm going to move out to Oceanside. They got a bunch of guys with mustaches that are super nice to me in the lineup.
It had its role in my decision. I was like,
Yeah.
it's just, but people in general though. I love the vibe in Oceanside. I find it very unique and authentic and different than what I've seen so far in LA or even in Orange County.
Yeah.
I feel like the closer you are to the ocean and maybe to Mexico, I don't know, the better it gets. I'm like, it's warmer. It's just...
I hear that a lot about this town, honestly. And I understand why you say that, because that's why I'm here. That's exactly why I'm here. It was a community that was so welcoming to me and my businesses, and even in the water, like you said. I mean, granted, there's some spots and there's some people in town, you just, you know that's their wave and you stay out of their way. But at the same time, Oceanside has a very warm and welcoming community. And it is a beautiful place. Hell, this is one of the few places, or the only places in San Diego County that you can drive right along the beachfront. Basically, kind of, aren't you down that way?
Well, I kind of live in front of it, so I don't even have to drive anymore. I'm just like cooking or something. I'm like, hey, waves, I'm coming to you.
Man, what a blessing.
I feel very, very fortunate.
Yeah.
And I was scared to do it, but now that I did, I don't think it gets any better than that. I mean, I'm like, sure, you could be, I want Hawaii, I want the warmth, it's all beautiful, but this is, it's just, it makes me feel like I'm in a magical little bubble, and I want to keep it forever.
I think that's so cool because you've lived a lot of places, right? So where all have you been since you've been West Coast? Because you were East Coast before, right?
10 years ago.
10 years ago, you were East Coast. New York?
Yes.
Okay.
New York, Soho, Manhattan, studying theater / auditioning for camera program. And then, but I was also different. I wanted to be in a big city, no matter kind of where it was. It could have been London or New York or even Paris. I wanted that constant energy of creativity and people being very driven by, I don't know, by their passions or their work. And
you get that in Manhattan.
You do.
In a different kind of way.
But now, and I don't regret at all having gone there. I thought as a European, it was probably the best transition you can have from Europe to US, because it's so cosmopolitan. Mm-hmm. It just, the difference doesn't feel as drastic as when you move to the West Coast, where I lived in LA as well. And I was like, wow, right. That now I'm feeling like it's not my culture, and like it's going to take some time.
Wow. So New York felt more on what you were used to vibration than the West Coast did?
Yeah, for sure.
Really?
It's even just walking, taking the subway. I only learned how to drive because I was moving to the West Coast. Otherwise, I think I would have probably just stuck to public transportation. So just that, I felt it's what I know. You go somewhere, you look at your shoes, and you go, and then you get there and like, ooh, this is exciting. And it's like you get electrocuted by a whole bunch of things that are happening. And then you go back, you're like, look at your shoes, you go back home. But now I want something very different. And I feel Oceanside is, you said it was very welcoming to you. And
guys in mustaches, with mustaches,
Oh, you too.
Same
I thought
vibe.
I was special. Damn it. It's like, it's because I'm French and cute, but nope, not at all.
So you were East Coast.
Yes.
10 years ago. So you're in your 20s.
I even moved there when I was 18. I studied from 18 to 20.
Wow. And then you went back to Europe?
So then I went for a year in LA. Mm-hmm. And then I applied for an artist visa, which I have now, and I didn't get at the time. So then I went back to Paris when I was 21.
Okay. And you were there how long?
I think 3 years. And then I moved to Switzerland because I grew up in Switzerland and Egypt between both. My older brother and I are very close, and he mentioned wanting to go back to his roots and being closer to nature. So like the countryside. And he told me, let's move back to Switzerland. And I did for
So
5
you and your
years.
brother moved back to Switzerland together.
And his Russian wife. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. But then it turns out it wasn't for me either.
Yeah.
So I was just on a journey of trying to appreciate what was there, but still feeling like it's not what I'm fitting in, or it's not what I'm looking for yet.
Mhm.
It was like a process of I'm getting closer to it, but it's not that. And yeah.
Then you got the artist and acting study itch again and decided to come back to the West Coast from there, or?
So the art thing, I got fortunate that when I moved back to France, so that's after LA, I'm like, okay, I didn't get my American visa. Sad. Almost got married to stay here too, but I'm glad I didn't, because I would have been for, I don't know. I don't think it would have worked out. Yes.
Yeah.
But so, no, yeah, I moved back to France. I was a bit sad for a few months, and then I was like, okay, you need to keep on with acting, and it doesn't really matter whether it's going to be in English or French. But yeah, you want to act, you can do it in France too. So I went to an agency, and they took me on a trial. They told me, we're going to audition you for 6 months, and if people tell us you're too green, then we'll let you go, and if people like you and you book stuff, we'll sign you
up. And then you're acting at that point.
I am.
Okay.
Because I went from studying acting to actually having professional interviews and castings, and being like, oh, those projects are going to go somewhere. The person who's going to film me will know what they're doing.
Cool.
Yeah. And if I'm lucky, it's like actually going to be seen by people.
You become official at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think within 3 months, I booked a movie for TV. Then the director liked me. He's like, I want you to audition for a cop show, which I thought I was never going to get because I looked like a baby.
A cop show?
Yes.
So you were a lady cop?
Yes, I was.
And you were a 20-something-year-old lady cop?
23, which means I looked like I was 17.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And
okay.
I was like, they're never going to buy this. I don't look like a cop.
And where were you placed then?
So it was
geographically speaking,
south of France. It's called Sète, and it's a little harbor, which is cute during summer and the other seasons. But when winter hits, it's a very old place, and you have like one bar and 30 pharmacies, and you're like, okay.
Guys with mustaches anywhere?
It's not the same kind of mustaches. There, I'm like,
okay, got it.
I don't.
Yeah,
it's more like old people strollers than mustaches, and you're like, okay, this is, and you're not constantly shooting all day long right there.
So how long did you do that?
I was on it for 5 seasons. So I left beginning of season 5, which means I was part of it for 4.5 years. And then I told the producers, I said, I always wanted to go back to the US, and I feel like this opportunity validates me as an actress, which makes me eligible for that visa that I didn't get before. And so we parted very amicably. My character got promoted to another like cybercrime area.
Oh, wow.
So they're like, we're not killing you. I'm like, yes.
How old were you then?
I stopped the show at 27, 28.
Okay.
I want to say.
So a few years ago.
Yes. But it's been a while now, because now I'm like, you're 31 and it's time to get back on the horse, because it's a lovely life to be like, I'm just taking a break. But like, that break has extended for a little while. And I thought I've rejected acting a lot of times. I'm working on not being so black and white, but I was like, I am done with it. I'm never going to do this anymore, because it's just being very absolute about things. And somehow each time I've thought that way, 6 months in or a year in, I have this urge to be expressive artistically. And the only way I've known how to be expressive artistically was through acting. So I'd be back into it.
Yeah. You know, the way that you laid out your approach, let's say, or, you know, how things have kind of played out for you. And I know that you just said that you've been a little black and white typically on things, but sounds like you've been maybe a little on the fence about whether you want to continue acting. But you're so black and white usually, so it's hard for you to be on the fence about something. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. I think what that boils down to, at least for me, and I do this on, let's say, a case by case basis on small things and big things in life decisions, is maybe not be black and white on the topic, but be open, right, to that world, that environment, that life that could be, maybe isn't today, or I'm not feeling great about it, but still allow yourself to be open about the industry or open about that way of life and appreciate it because it's part of who you are now, whether you like it or not. That's part of who you are. So embrace that, maybe even embrace the industry. But something that's interesting about what you're saying is we don't have to be black and white about our passions or black and white about, you know, things that are opportunities in life, but we can prioritize our efforts and prioritize where we choose to spend time because we know we're going to get value, or we need the value out of this time, and it may not be acting for a while.
Yeah.
And so I think you've been doing that, right? We were talking a little bit offline yesterday about what you're into now and kind of part of maybe why you're also here in Oceanside in some capacity, right?
Definitely. And I think I used to not be a believer of timing, but there is. And I think what you put in your head as in what I'm looking for when I want to do something is crucial. And I think I was acting for a specific reason at first, then it shifted and it kind of lost me because I was thinking, I don't know why I'm doing this anymore because it's not the same need. I don't have to express myself because of the same reason anymore. And now that I'm on a different path, I find that I still want to express myself, and it's okay that it's not for the same.
You knew before why you wanted to express yourself?
Yes.
I'm going to just go out on a limb there and say that's rare. If I think about that for myself and the people that, I'm not going to speak for anyone else, but I think that having confidence or having an understanding of why you're doing things in life, your purpose, maybe that's sort of what you were you had a stronghold on something that empowered you so much to do something.
Yeah.
That you had that passion and you knew what that spark and fire was. I would like to say that that's pretty rare in people. Do you know, is that fair?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not against that. It was something, should I say what it is? It's going to get dark.
I think it's interesting if you're comfortable with it. And if you think that it would help other people understand maybe something about themselves. And this is an opportunity to offer perspective from someone very different from who I am, right? This is why I appreciate these conversations, is because I learned something, right, about that. Because I don't want to say never. I mean, there's moments in my life where I've been able to tap into something. I'm like, this is my motherfucking fuel. I'm about to get it. And I'm about to fucking nail it, whatever it is. And I have that, what is it? Just motivation, but it's difficult to tie it back to something. Do you know?
Yeah.
For everyone, I think it may be difficult to pinpoint something or a thing. And so I just personally think that is rare, and I could be wrong, but we don't have to get into it if you don't want to, but I think it's interesting. That's
I don't
all.
mind. I'll say it.
Yeah.
It's going to be the cliche thing, but I lost my dad when I was little and I had all this like anger and emotion. And I felt, well, there is a place where if you have the right text that triggers you or speaks to you, you get to unleash it and be like, well, it was very just an angry thing of this is unfair. This is how I feel. And like, this shouldn't be this way and all of that.
Right.
The problem is, at first it felt good, but it became something too like dark.
Mm-hmm.
And
you had to let it go?
Yeah, because then I was like, I'm actually moving on, because you learn how to survive without someone that you care for. But when your work is constantly tinted by that,
right,
it's like a dark shadow, and you're like, it doesn't serve me anymore. It actually does the opposite, because now I'm trying to grow from that. I'm trying to be my own person.
It's your therapy.
Yeah. And
it's your outlet, your release.
And I feel like that's why I got out of it, because it freaked me out. And I was thinking, whenever I do an emotional scene, whenever I play someone who's in pain, it takes me right back there, and I can't outgrow it. Right. And it just follows me, and it's not healthy for me.
Right.
And now that I've been doing other things, finding a different lifestyle, like the beach life, the surfing.
You're creating your own history now. And you don't have to live in the history do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're creating a new positive history to reflect and grow on, and leverage that positivity.
Because I thought you had to be in pain to connect with people. And now I'm like, there's a whole spectrum of things you can connect.
Absolutely.
With, especially like your work is all about positivity, I find often, and like helping people grow, sharing what you've learned, giving back. And I just felt it's my journey. I'm like, I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to be part of a community and bring something into it that's positive, rather than the masochistic, like, well, I'm in pain. If you're in pain too, let's be in pain together and stay there. And you're like, wow, it's nice to a certain extent, but then I'm like, you get it. Just a whole other palette to life than that. And
that's a beautiful way to say it. There is a whole nother palette of colors, that you are the artist, you are the producer and the director. And that opens up a whole nother realm, if you will, because that realm of opportunity. Because as you said, if you're in pain, and the way to connect with people is through pain, but then there's also another way to connect with people through beautiful color and positivity, right? And grow together. And you're in the right place, girl. Oceanside, guys with mustaches, artist community, a true community that feels like family here. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I am so fortunate to have been able to be open to embracing that, and then have my peers and my lovers and the people of the community be so open to me. Do you know, allow me into their space in that way. I come with my own troubles and problems and all that fucked up stuff. But I'm trying to paint with the brightest of colors the next and what's after what's next, and hopefully include as many people into that I get the same jujus from, you know what I mean? And if you can focus on that and steer all your focus in that direction, you become that. And you can kind of put to bed those old things and bring them up when you need to reflect, but use it as a tool in your toolbox of things to feel when you want to and you need to. There's nothing that's going to change the past.
But you could, I agree, but I think it should not define who you are.
I absolutely
think
agree with that.
The major difference with people, and people here, I'll be meeting a stranger and have a 2-hour conversation with them, and I'm like, these people are deep. Like, I'm not the only, like pain can also be very self-centered, right? Mm-hmm. And then you talk with other people, like, well, they sound like they've been through stuff that I can't even fathom.
Yeah, that's right.
And it just takes you out of your own little centered self, because you're like, everybody goes through stuff. There should not be comparison of whose pain is tougher. But what's interesting is what people where they want to go from there. And like, that's where the common point should be drawn, where you're like, me too. I want to make the most of that. I am inspired by that. Because sure, you came from this and it's it's moving and it's all those things, but it's what you do with it. It's precious. And I'm trying to work on that. And I feel like Oceanside is a place where I want to be part of this. I'm like, if I can find something where I'm not needed because it sounds pretentious, but where I can put what I've learned to use, I would love to do it in a place like Oceanside.
You're in the right place because this community loves help, and you don't have to be a born and raised local. It's just they're open arms to you if you've got respect and want to keep that local community vibe, which I know you do.
I'm like, I want to stay out here.
Yeah, I know, right? It's a beautiful place.
And it's funny because I don't know. I came with different expectations or different, and it's different and in a much better way. I felt like I was going to be less. I'm like, how are you going to fit in there? You're a little French girl from Paris, and you're with these people who are authentic, and not that being from Paris makes you not authentic, but they've clearly are like the chicks are badass. The dudes are like totally biker / butcher / lumberjack surfer. I'm like, it's a lot of strong presence. And I'm like, just being here, kind of feeling, I don't know what I'm looking for, but this looks like a rad place, and it might be what I've been looking for all along.
So you're not sure if you were, let's say, quote unquote, ready to move the Oceanside, but you came out this way.
Yes, I was not ready. And I freaked out the first week, and then I just started doing what I like to do, which is meeting people, going to places even on my own. And everyone was just so warm and so open about their journey. Yeah. Just because like, how often do you meet strangers and you actually get to have a profound conversation? I feel like here it's something that happens more often than common places, and I like that.
I would agree. And so I don't know, if you weren't ready, why'd you do it? I mean, how is one ready for something, if you will?
I wanted to, so at this point I'm like, I hate acting. I don't want to have anything to do anymore. I clearly love surfing. And I'd gone to Costa Rica, where I was originally going to move for 3 months.
I'm not going to say that Oceanside's not like comparable to Costa Rica. They're not in the same, but I'd say it's a nice stop on the way.
But then COVID happened. And I was like, well,
dun, dun, dun.
I seem to date men who live in Oceanside. I seem to go back for the surf in Oceanside. I seem to go back for the food in Oceanside.
So you weren't ready?
I was not. No, I was not ready. But then I didn't want to live in Huntington because I originally went to Huntington to be able to be in a surf town and still go back and forth to LA to train for theater and audition. And then when I made peace with the fact that I didn't want to audition for Hollywood no more, I was like, well, then I don't really need to be in Huntington, which is a bit too commercial for my taste, and like spring break,
right?
All that.
How was that commuting from, was it Laguna and Huntington Beach all the way to LA for auditions regularly and for like acting just in general? How was that?
It was tiring. And then I felt like it was taking me away from what I enjoyed most, which was being at the beach and surfing. And I felt it was especially the training for theater, because the auditions I had a few, but my theater classes were twice a week. So you're assigned a partner, you have to rehearse with them, you have to read the whole play, learn a 10-page scene with theatrical dialect, which is a bit, I think, longer and harder than your modern type script.
Sure.
So that, it was tough and tiring. I loved it though, because I was like, how fortunate are you that you live in a beach town, plus you find this cool team of actors who are professional actors and you train with them. But then me being black and white, no, you have to be a surfer girl or an actor. You can't be both.
But you can be open to both and prioritize your time, which is something that's okay.
I'm trying to work in that direction, but I definitely prioritized surfing after a year of that training, because the training was very different from what I was used to doing too.
Yeah.
Because it goes back to being, I want to do this scene because the person's in pain and I know how to do that. But then you hand me another scene and I'm like, well, I don't really know what's interesting about this scene because it doesn't trigger anything in me. And in this place, especially this woman being 70 years old and being a feminist and all of that, she showed me a whole different way of interpreting a character. And it's a little bit of an ego check because she was telling us, and I think it's a very valid point, like acting should not be for you. It should be because you have enough compassion to embody a character. You have to respect their story, their art. It shouldn't be about you where you draw a line and you're like, oh, I know what they're feeling because this is my story.
Wow.
And then you forget about the character and and it becomes something, it's not as good as it can be.
That's so heavy. So this is what my tiny brain's doing right now.
Uh-oh.
I'm relating that as an art form of acting is the way I've always seen it to be and I still see it to be that right now. It's a creative process, but I don't know about art form. I'm thinking of it. It's an art form. But music, to create music and then to sing someone else's created music is almost like I have a glitch in my brain about it. And it's for the reason that you just explained, that your coach was explaining, I think. Sorry not to turn the conversation around about me, but I just had an epiphany. And it's like when you're creating your own storyline or you're creating your own music, and that's what you're bringing to the table, right? Which is what you are bringing to the table. You're like a drama scene or a heavy scene or a dark scene. I can do that, right? But it's really someone else's dark scene story. And what your coach was saying, that you need to embody that character to respect the artist who actually created that character. That's what I see, and why I have such a problem when I try to be creative when playing music. It doesn't feel creative when I'm trying to play someone else's song. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I can't escape and get that real good juju and release from creating, like acting as an art form, from playing out someone else's storyline.
Yeah.
And so that's got to be hard for actors and actors to be playing out the role that's the creation of someone else. You're literally having to become someone else's vision and bring your own skill and talent to that in some whole other complex world. That blows my mind. I'm sorry, I just put all that together.
No, you're right, I think. And it's like you have to filter a lot. There's the author, so then there's your interpretation of the character, but then there's also what the director wants you to do. And it is kind of being a poetic puppet, but it's what's happening. And I felt like I was angry at that too, because I thought, what about my story?
Right.
Why doesn't anybody care about my story? When you go to an audition and you share something that's vulnerable and it's just very personal. But then it's like, is it? Because it's not supposed to be about you. And you have to be very humble about it, which I have not always been, because I thought...
That's made you who you are in your eyes, right?
I've grown from that.
Now,
rejected
but
it.
I mean, in
now,
the past, it's what we felt like our past had made us who we are because we were young.
Oh, yeah.
That's what we knew.
I was like, no, I know how you don't tell me how I act.
Right.
I have to express this and I'm going to do it. And bolt and plus I was having a very hard time controlling my emotions, because then it became too personal and it puts you in a weird, it's just strange. Your emotions take over and you're not telling the story anymore that's the same loop. You're not telling the story of the character.
And so now you're kind of in a place where you're looking for something that you can express yourself in, potentially acting, potentially giving back, something. You're searching for that in this break that you've been on from professional acting career, but you've been taking auditions and considering other things and done some other self-development stuff, growth stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And in that journey that you're on, right, the thing that brought you down to Oceanside, open your eyes and mind and heart and kind of everything to a different community and different influences, different people. What are you doing now? What are you working on? How are you expressing yourself in this way? Like, where is your mind going now if it's not acting?
I want to write,
Yeah.
which but I haven't had that jumping off the edge where I'm like, it's building, it's here, and I feel I need to write. I do almost every day, but I don't finish what I write. I don't know whether that is because I'm new at it or because I have a fear of it not connecting with people like I hope it would, or it not being good enough. I don't know what it is yet, but there's a fear factor in that makes me because I've been used to being the filter. And so now I'm thinking, what's to say that my story is important enough or interesting enough that I get to write it from scratch and be like, you're going to want to listen to this because I feel like maybe it'll relate with you. Or
if I may,
yes,
it comes back to the principle of the most beautiful stories and the most beautiful creations come from the wild, organic nonsense minds of folks that understand and perceive life in a different way. It's not because someone built something for someone else to enjoy. They put it down. It's like music, right? Musicians in the beginning are making noise because it feels good and it sounds great to them. And the ones who hit it big, are those greats. And then there's the electronic music, not to downplay anything else. There's the other electronic and mainstream, and they're building pop songs that people want to hear. You know what I'm saying? People are building club songs, but they're doing it because it makes them, it's what they've got to do. Do you know what I mean? They're getting in deep and they're expressing themselves. And just so happens it works really well for people and people love it. And so what I do when I play, how I go over to Dave's, and I'm not a good musician, but I'll jam on the guitar and do this, that, and the other, and it's terrible. But you guys enjoy listening to it, right? Because it comes from the heart, and I'm not trying to recreate someone else's music. And I hope it sounds cool, but I'm only playing it so it sounds cool for me. And I guess it sounds cool to other people, and they can feel that, This is on a very minute, small, insignificant scale, but it's my moment to create something that's for me around people, and they dig. And I think that's what we need to focus on, because you have great ideas. You know what I mean? Your mind, the way your mind works, you have great ideas. And I have some insight to your storylines, and they're great. They're incredible, actually. They're bizarre, but they're so
bizarre.
Exactly. They are bizarre and very, very cool. Things I have not understood, things I have not seen or heard of before in storylines of books. So I think you should definitely pursue that. So you're thinking harder about this. How many books different stories do you think you're up to now?
I think I have. So there's the short story ones that somehow I feel would be more for teenagers and young adults, just because I see them with drawings and they're more like short poems and things like that. And I have about 6 stories that I would want to have in one book. But then I also have another one where I think, oh, this should be a Pixar movie, or meant to be that way. Will it reach Pixar? I don't know.
You can absolutely have those ambitions and goals with your stories, because that's a category or a channel of media that's an entertainment that's huge. And your storylines fit.
But I'm thinking, shouldn't it just be like you said, because you got to express yourself and you want the release? Because I think already having the expectation of it having to go somewhere, of it having to be appreciated by others, it puts a lot of pressure that makes me think, do I really want to take responsibility for the impact that it might have on people? Because what if it just...
Have responsibility for how good you feel when you walk away from that story, and allow your editor and producers to decide what's good or what's not good for entertainment. Just get it on paper, girl. Get it down, create the story unedited, Get wild with it. Get it out there. Let your friends read it. Let the people read it. Get it out there. Send it.
I think.
Don't think too much about it.
No, I know, but no. Okay. But I think I'm more afraid of success, even if on a small scale, than failure.
You mean your own success that you've created yourself is the scariest shit alive.
Scary.
Yeah.
Because even just acting, I thought, is just a little TV show. Is just a little, and I'm like looking. There's actually a lot of people in France that watch the show, and then I'm like, they're having an opinion of me and of what I'm doing when they don't know me. And am I really ready to have to answer to that? But if it's an acting role, I still have the cover. Well, I'm not the one who wrote it. I'm not the one. It's not my vision.
The beauty of acting.
So
they're not judging you. You shouldn't be judging yourself. It's you're creating something that entertains people in a positive way.
Hopefully.
But back to your stories and back to that. It's really important that you prioritize in order to secure what I believe anyway, a solid foundation for your profile and your portfolio of who the Gaya is, And it sounds like you've learned a ton about business, about processes, about who you are through this channel of acting, this career of acting. And they've come back to you, am I right? And asked you for more?
So yeah, my show now they're going to shoot their 9th season.
That's a big deal. 9 seasons on a show, and you were on 5 of those.
And they when I left, they had 6 million viewers in France. Now they have 7 million, and it's in like 35 European countries, I believe. So I don't know how many people are watching it total. It doesn't really matter, but kind of, because I'm thinking it's kind of a lot of people. I mean, if someone were to tell me right now you're going to walk down the street and you're going to be in a crowd of 6 million people, I'd be like, and I never went into it thinking about that, because I thought, well, I just got lucky because I booked the role and this and that, and then it grew on its own, and I was not really aware of it. I might have taken it for granted as well. A little bit.
We tend to do that as humans. It's okay.
I don't know. I'm losing my track of thoughts.
No, but what we were talking about is they've come back to you.
Oh yes,
they've come back to you to shoot another show potentially.
They asked me. Am I supposed to say that?
I don't know.
Hopefully, French people will be watching this. Maybe I might have been offered to come back at some point in the show, maybe, and so. It really warmed my heart, because it showed me that even though I parted from the show, they are not mad at me for it. They still appreciate me as a person, like I appreciate them as a person, which really meant a lot to me, because I thought from the moment I left the show, they already had another girl that was taking not my role, but same kind of role. And I was like, wow, this is really business. Here you are having real bonds with people, but they also are making money out of it. They have responsibilities, and you're saying you want out. The show is still happening. It's like a wave.
This is why I highly recommend you stay in an industry that provides you that exposure in business, because that exists in all creations today in the modern world. If we decide to be therapists on the beach, or we're independently wealthy and can have any life that we want, that's one thing. But the other thing is we want to learn and grow as people, and we want exposure, and that's experiences and exposure. As long as it's positive juju and people are seeing it as a positive environment and taking good things and great things away from that, and you're growing, I recommend staying in that, because you get so much perspective, and you never know along your journey who you meet that might peel you off of that journey and show you something else that's the rest of your life's journey, And it also gives you freedom after and in between to kind of pop in and pop out and grow. And you're learning a ton from that. I think that's amazing.
I'm very happy.
It's a very inspiring story.
And I got surprised in a good way of how kind and generous people can be, because I thought they maybe viewed me as this young girl who took for granted that she had a good part in a TV show because they offered me to take a break and come back. But me being black and white, I'm like, nope, I'm going to the US. I want out. I want to do something different artistically, all of that. I left my agent at the time too, which was
it's a big deal to leave an agent.
and she was great. She gave me my chance. She saw potential in me before anyone else before that. And I met another agent throughout the way who told me, I'm going to get you the real kind of stuff for the US because you are bilingual. You should be auditioning much more than that. And I got seduced by working with her. So I left my former agent all those years back. Turns out my collaboration with the new agent was nothing like the one I had before because she's a businesswoman and there's nothing wrong with that. But
they have other intent.
And I learned what kind of person I am. I actually want to be part of a family. I want people who put the human side of things on before anything else. Doesn't matter how many auditions I get or...
You don't want to be part of the machine. You want to be part of a family.
And
welcome to Oceanside. You know what I'm saying? Welcome to Oceanside. That's the family you're looking for.
I hope so.
If you keep a connection here or in communities like this and you keep that big scale production channel opportunity also in your portfolio, I think you're on the right path.
And it like all works together, right? Because you're like, people will inspire you when they move you as a human being rather than, oh, I want success. I want to be ahead of where I should be. I want more. But then I think it's really about setting your values right and what it is that the kind of person you want to be and who you want to be around. Because I think if you find that right fit, then it'll grow into something bigger than you can even imagine before you get there. It's like in a good way.
I couldn't agree more.
That's what I want.
I couldn't agree more. And how do you know? But you're going to be we are presented with so many opportunities every day, all the time for the rest of our lives. How do you make a choice in the moment? How do you, let's say, as we were talking yesterday, seize the moment, seize the day?
You just got to jump.
Yeah.
You just got to jump and now I know that even if I make a mistake, or I don't like to see it as a mistake because I still grew from the decisions I made. Had I not parted with the show, I would have not gotten to meet the great people I've met in the US. I would have not found out about Oceanside and all of that. But it's good to know that things are not absolute. You can go, it's not like going back, but if you meet the right people, if your intentions are in the right direction, you will be able to go back to something you might have had and then you thought you lost, because it's still going to be within your reach. And that reassures me now, because I thought by making decisions, it would cancel completely opportunities and be like, it's this and you can't have another choice. And it's not, I'm learning it's not really like that. Yeah. And that people who are open-minded understand that you want to grow and have different experiences. Sure. And they're not going to reprimand you for it. And even now I'm back with my former agency. I reached out to them. I thought they were going to brush me away and be like, hey, you left us before for that other agent.
Can I come back
Sorry.
home?
And it's kind of what I kind of said that. Yeah. And also because thinking of my show, I was like, I got this opportunity with my former agent and I am not with the same agent anymore, but she answered me within an hour after my email. And she said, I'm going to put you in contact with someone who's wonderful and works by my side. Because she's, I think, wiser and older enough to also see if our collaboration came to an end, maybe it means I need to have another collaboration, even though it's within the same family. And I think that's very smart.
Yeah.
And again, I'm like, people are generous. How classy is it for someone to be like, hey,
I think
my door's open for you, even though you left before.
That's beautiful. I think they're invested. And when we cross good people's paths, we become invested in them and each other. You know what I mean? Like you are in them. And that's a benefit for them, just so you know. I hope you know that. but the people that you come in contact with are taking value away from that relationship. I'm certain of that. So just don't forget that, you know.
Try.
I'm telling you that, but I say it out loud so that I don't forget it either, you know.
It's not just because something didn't work out the way you thought it was going to be doesn't mean that person has to be cut off your life or they're bad for you, period. Or it's just there's a lot of shades of gray.
Yeah. There can be for sure. And your story, I shouldn't say your story, but you and your path has inspired me. And that's why I wanted to talk to you today, because I think it can inspire others too. I'm not going to speak for Dave, but it's an inspiring story. You have seen many places and done many things that I have not done. And the perspective that you bring and the value you bring to a relationship and conversation is supreme. It's super cool.
I feel the same way about. I feel like, is this where we all hug?
And then,
I feel the same way about you. I do.
But I know that we can add value to folks that we come in contact with, and then also we hope that we can add value to the folks we come in contact with in the organizations. And you're new to Oceanside, and also want to personally take the opportunity to welcome you to the community.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank
It's
you.
always good to see you.
I can breathe now. I was like so nervous.
Yeah.
I'm like,